The smartest people and the smartest hockey teams learn from their mistakes. We'll talk about something that Patrick Roy did differently on Tuesday. That might be a positive sign for the New York Islanders. We'll also preview tonight's game against the Senators. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they're available. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You could start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Lots to discuss on today's show, but the first thing we wanted to talk about is something that Patrick Roy did differently on Tuesday that I think was a big benefit to the New York Islanders. And it involved rookie Isaiah George, who was making his NHL and Islanders debut in this game. And the great thing about it, in my estimation, is that Roy handled the situation differently than what the Islanders have done in the recent past. And that is critical because every day, as you know, I have been critical of the New York Islanders and the way that they've tended to handle their young players. Too often, we have seen young players be benched, whether it's within a game or be sent back down to the minors or just not see the ice again after they make a mistake. And, you know, we saw it 100 times with Oliver Wahlstrom. We've seen it with Samuel Bolduc. We've seen it with so many different young players over the years with the New York Islanders. And yet, Tuesday, when Isaiah George made his NHL debut, he ended up making a mistake early in the third period. And instead of being benched, Patrick Roy sent George back out there. And I think that was a big benefit for the Islanders and for Isaiah George. It happened early in the third period. There was a bad turnover that George made that resulted in a good scoring chance for the Penguins while the Islanders were already down 2-1. And another goal at that point would have been really, really difficult. And yet, Patrick Roy ended up sending George back out there. He ended up playing 15 minutes and 41 seconds in the game. And when you consider he only played a little more than 2 minutes in the first period, you could see that Roy was going to stick with Isaiah George. And here's what he said after the game. We're not protecting him. There won't be protecting thing here. We need to see what he could do 100%. And that's what we need from the New York Islanders, because how often have we seen those young players end up being benched and then they lose confidence and they think the coach doesn't believe in them or that they may not be good enough to play in the NHL. And then they're not the same as far as the confidence goes, and it sets back their development. Meanwhile, how often have we seen veteran New York Islanders players make similar mistakes over and over and over again, and they end up being out there on the ice over and over and over again. And that, again, even sends a worse message to the young players because they're getting treated so differently from the veterans, and the veterans get away with making those same mistakes that the rookies pay dearly for. And Isaiah George was frank about it. He said, yeah, it means a lot. It was kind of a fluke play. I just tried to reverse, go D to D back there. It just kind of healed off my stick. I just kept a positive mindset. I just kept going and forgot about that shift. And that's what you need to do. And after the game, Patrick Roy, very complimentary of George, given again that here's a 20-year-old kid playing his first NHL game. Except for that one turnover, I thought he had a solid game, Roy told reporters. I mean, he skates, he's moving well. I think the more he's going to play, the more comfortable he's going to feel out there. Good for him. I was happy that he was here tonight because he played a lot of minutes for his first game. I thought it was good minutes. I was very pleased with his performance. He even played in overtime. Come on. Good job, kid. That gives, having him play in overtime, and thankfully he did well, that is a confidence boost. And I have to say this. Patrick Roy, hopefully, is learning from this organization's past mistakes. And while every young player is different, and some young players take criticism better than others, that's the job of the head coach. Figure out whether or not your young players can handle criticism, benching. Some players need a proverbial kick in the rear end, and some players need to be built up emotionally and to have positive reinforcement. There are different ways to handle different players. Different coaches handle different situations differently. But the Islanders, as an organization, we have seen players just struggle to gain a foothold on this team. And Samuel Bolduc's confidence shot as a result of the way the Islanders handled him. I think you can make the argument that Oliver Wahlstrom's confidence was compromised. William Dufour, when he played his first NHL game, I think he played 6 minutes, give or take, and made a turnover and got benched and did not see the ice for the rest of the game. And I don't want that to continue to be the MO of the New York Islanders organization. And this change, while it may only be on one particular night for one particular player, it also hopefully is something that Patrick Roy and the rest of this coaching staff and front office learns from and realizes, hey, you know what? You don't just have to sit guys. And to take it a step further, they're not going to do it with defensemen right now when you've got 3 guys, all 3 of your left shot defensemen are hurt right now and out of the lineup. So you're not benching guys right now. But, could I see Noah Dobson when 1, maybe, or 2 of these defensemen get back into the lineup? Could I see the Islanders sit Noah Dobson for a shift or 2 to send a message? Hey, you got to be better in your own zone. You can't keep turning the puck over the way you've been turning it over. I don't mind sending that message to the veterans by having them sit for a shift or 2 to get it clear to them and to show the rookies as well, or the younger players, hey, you know what? Everybody on this team is accountable. Accountability, that lack of the Islanders have been criticized for having what some outsiders believe is a country club atmosphere, that there's not enough accountability in this organization. Getting the veterans to also be, benched occasionally for their repeated mistakes when they make the same mistake over and over and over again, that is, I think, a solid approach. And maybe you give rookies more than one chance where they're playing literally feeling like, hey, we have no margin for error at all, that is not the way for a young player to gain confidence and feel loose and feel like they can handle the NHL game. So I was happy to see Patrick Waugh not only give Isaiah George more than one chance, but to say after the game, I liked the way he played. I liked the way he responded after he made the mistake. And I sent him back out there and we got positive results. That is a small step forward for the New York Islanders as compared to the way this team has traditionally done business. And it is something we need to see them do more often going forward if they hope to get a different result in the future from some of these young players. All right, we have got a lot more to get to. On today's show, we'll talk about the resilience of this team that they've been showing and how important that is to the team. We'll talk about a milestone for Ilya Sorokin. We'll preview tonight's game against the Senators. And for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a player who was with the Islanders briefly in their first season, all of their second season, and part of their third. He was part of a big trade in 1975 that helped the Islanders go on a long playoff run. And oh yeah, his brother also played in the NHL. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. My favorite feature on the Game Time app remains the view from your seat. You go on the app and you can see a panoramic view from your seat before you purchase the tickets, so you know exactly what to expect when you get to the arena. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you could check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. And Islander fans, check out the odds for the Islanders tonight against the Ottawa Senators. You can bet on which Islander you think will score a goal or whether the Islanders will win the game. Check out all the latest odds on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Islanders' resilience. And look, I try to be a straight shooter about this hockey team. When there's criticism that is deserved, I will try to give it. I want to be fair. When they deserve praise, I want to be fair about that. And while this team has its flaws, and everydayers know we've discussed a lot of them, they also have certain qualities that I think benefit them, and one of them is their resilience. You look at the way they played against Buffalo last week. You look even more at the way they played Tuesday against Pittsburgh. And the Islanders were down 3-1 in the third period. You're missing 2/3 of your top line, all of your left shot defensemen. Your defensive core is, a rookie playing his first NHL game. and a couple of AHL veterans who are kind of journeyman NHL players. No offense to, Grant Hutton and Dennis Cholowski, but that's kind of where they're at right now in their professional hockey careers. And, it would have been easy for this team to say, oh, gosh, we're up against Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and Chris Letang and Erik Karlsson. We're not going to win this game. But they didn't give up, and they persevered. And, we criticize the Islanders very often, and deservedly so, for giving up, not being able to hold a lead. Yet, at the same time, while that has been a problem for this team for far too long, they also do come back and bounce back and overcome a deficit, or after they give up a lead, sometimes they do get the 2 points at the end of the game. This team, at the very least, doesn't quit. They don't always bring their A game. They don't always play fundamentally sound hockey. They are right now, quite honestly, very undermanned as compared to some of their opponents. If you look at the talent on the ice last Sunday against the Rangers, and granted, the Rangers had the best record in the NHL last year, but if you look at the 18 skaters that the Islanders had on the ice Sunday versus the 18 skaters that their opponents had Sunday, the talent gap was noticeable. And yet the Islanders, went out there and gave an effort. And it is going to be this resilience that they have shown in recent years and in recent games is going to be critical. Because, look, if you're going to be without those 3 key players for 4 to 6 weeks, and we don't know how long Alexander Romanov and Mike Riley are going to be out, day to day could be they're back tomorrow, and it could be that they're back in a week, a month. We don't know, depending on what the injuries are and how quickly they can recover. But the resilience of this team is critical. And the fact that they do bounce back and do not give up, in my mind, is one of the things I really like about this team. And right now, when they are overmatched talent-wise, you want to see that never say die attitude that this team has shown. We had a milestone Tuesday night that I did not get a chance to talk about on yesterday's show. Ilya Sorokin became only the 5th goaltender in the history of the New York Islanders to play 200 or more games with the franchise. He is now 98, 68, and 31 in his career in the NHL, all of those games with the Isles. He has a 2.53 goals against average and a .919 save percentage. This is his 5th year with the Islanders, and, he's got pretty elite company when it comes to Islanders goalies who have played 200 or more games. You got Billy Smith, the Hall of Famer, the guy who helped this team to 4 straight Stanley Cups in the 80s. You've got Rick DiPietro, former first overall pick in the draft, who was an all-star goalie until injuries shortened his career. You got Glenn Chico Resch, who was the first goalie to really be a difference maker for the Islanders in the mid-70s, who helped lead them on that beautiful playoff run in 1975. And then you have Kelly Rudy, who was really good for this team in the 80s. And, now you add Ilya Sorokin. If you're wondering, by the way, Semyon Varlamov, he has played 168 games. He has the rest of this year and 2 more years left on his contract. Assuming that Sorokin stays healthy, Varley probably has to wait until next year to get to that 200 games played mark with the Islanders. But if Varley stays healthy, he should get there unless for some reason that the team parts ways with him before we expect them to do that. And, if Varley continues to be a solid backup, and, we love the way he and Sorokin are friends and he mentors Sorokin as well, Varley has a pretty good chance, I would think, of reaching that 200 games played as an Islander mark. And we'll see when and if he gets there. All right, we have got a lot more to discuss. It's Islanders, Senators, 7 o'clock Eastern time tonight in Ottawa. We have a full preview of that game. Plus, we have our Islanders' birthday of the day. All of this and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Islanders and Senators tonight, and this is an important game. Let's not kid ourselves. Ottawa right now comes into this game at 6-6. So, they're at NHL 500. The Islanders are one game below NHL 500. Both teams even in points, but the Islanders they've played one more game than the Senators. Ottawa, they can put the puck in the net. They're 11th in the league with in goals scored, and they're kind of right up there in goals against. They're 11th also in that category. Special teams, the power play is dangerous. 4th in the league with a 30.8% success rate. Islanders cannot go into the box too often, and they've got to have their penalty kill ready and effective tonight. Meanwhile, the penalty kill, 22nd in the league, 74.3% success rate. The big acquisition in the offseason for the Senators was Linus Ullmark, the former Bruins goalie. He is 2-4 in 6 starts, a .302 goals against average and an .892 save percentage. Right now, he's being outplayed by Anton Forsberg, who is 2-0. He has 2 shutouts already in 6 starts, a .265 goals against and a .910 save percentage. In the last 5 games, Ottawa has been loss, win, loss, win, loss. So, they are inconsistent, still trying to learn. Talk about a dangerous team, though. Right now, Brady Tkachuk, 7 goals, leads the team in 12 games. He has 16 points. Tim Stützle has 17 points, 6 goals, 11 assists. 4 goals for Tkachuk on the power play and 5 assists for Stützle with the extra attacker. Jake Sanderson has also been really good. He leads the team with 6 power play assists. You've got some dangerous players on this team. Stützle, Tkachuk, and Ridley Gregg are the top line. Josh Norris centers former Flyer Claude Giroux and Drake Batherson on the second line. Zach Ostapchuk and is the center on the third line with Noah Gregor to his left, Michael Amadio to his right, and then it's from left to right on the fourth line, Nick Cousins, Adam Gaudette, and Zach McEwen. On the blue line, former Islander Travis Hamonic is on the top pair with Jake Sanderson. Thomas Chabot and Nick Jensen are the second pair. Tyler Clevin and Jacob Bernard Docker are the third pair. And as we mentioned, it's Ullmark and Forsberg in between the pipes. Right now, Matthew Highmore on IR. Artem Zub is out. Shane Pinto and David Perron are listed as day-to-day. We'll see if either of them are able to make it back. These are the kind of games, the Islanders played Buffalo last week. They're playing Ottawa tonight. These are the kind of games that are 4-point games because you're going up against a team that, you're probably going to fight for one of those final playoff spots with. It will be important for the Islanders to win, preferably in regulation. Got to stay out of the box and cannot allow those fast skill players to get into the offensive zone with speed and momentum and, keep the defense on their heels, especially when you have an inexperienced group of defensemen who you're kind of trying to hide a little bit right now with all the injuries that the Islanders have on their blue line, the expected goalies, and again, not confirmed yet, but it looks like it'll be Sorokin again and Ullmark. So those, as of the time of this recording, are the expected goalies. We'll see if that holds up, and we'll also be able to update you on X with regard to the possible return of either Mike Riley or Alexander Romanov, but as of right now, we don't know if they'll be available and ready to play. Time now for our Islanders' birthday of the day. And today is the 77th birthday of former Islanders winger Ernie Hickey, the Regina, Saskatchewan native, 5'11", 180 pounds, made his NHL debut with the California Golden Seals in 1970-71. Scored 22 goals that year, even though the Seals finished last in their division. Went on to be selected by the Atlanta Flames in the 72 expansion draft, but was traded to the Islanders late in the season, and then was an Islander for 55 games in 73-74, was traded in February of 74, along with Doug Rombaugh, to the Minnesota North Stars in two separate deals just a few days apart. Bill Torrey ended up with Jude Drouin and J.P. Parise, two players who really helped the Islanders make that 1975 magical playoff run. After playing for Minnesota, Ernie Hickey went on to play half a season for the LA Kings and then finished his career in the minors. He scored 132 career goals, 272 points in 520 NHL games, had 407 penalty minutes, played two playoff games, both for Minnesota in 1977, and did score a goal. His best game as an Islander, pretty easy. November 22nd, 1973, Islanders hosting the Red Wings at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Terry Richardson, the goalie for Detroit. Jerry Desjardins, the netminder for the Islanders. Ernie Hickey gets the Islanders on the board 8 minutes and 8 seconds into the opening period. Lorne Henning and Billy Harris with the helpers, but the Islanders end up falling behind by a 3-2 score after two periods. Nick Libet, Ace Bailey, and Bill Collins score for Detroit. But in the third, just a minute and 8 seconds in, Ernie Hickey, our Islanders' birthday of the day, sets up Lorne Henning, Jean Potvin, the other assist. That makes it a 3-3 game. And then with 5.5 minutes left in the third period, Ernie Hickey scores his second goal of the game. Henning and Harris with the helpers. Craig Cameron scores with a minute and a half left. Islanders beat the Red Wings 5-3. 19 saves for Desjardins in the game. But for Ernie Hickey, 2 goals, 3 points, a +2. He had 3 shots on goal, and yes, he potted the game winner. So Ernie Hickey, he is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you can email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. And you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's always great to talk some Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. We'll be back tomorrow with our key takeaways from this game. Plus, we will have a full preview of Saturday's game home against the New Jersey Devils. So make sure you join us for that. Have a great day. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.